Geula Mamas, it's Tzivi here. So earlier this week, we spoke with a young mama, Ariella Mendlowitz, and she shared with us her experiences postpartum after having her first baby and how she was having what you might call the baby blues, postpartum depression. It wasn't officially diagnosed, but it was not a fun time. It was not a pretty time. It was not a time that she would want to go back to, and she was so amazing and open and shared with us. Amazing, Ariella. I'm just thinking of her, wanting to send out hugs, a million hugs, and thank her, because we can all learn so much from her experiences and bring that forward and help ourselves and our friends and our sisters to avoid those types of situations. They are not unavoidable. Sometimes people talk about the postpartum time period or the baby blues, and it feels like some big scary thing that might just come upon us. But most of the time, maybe all of the time, I don't know, at least most of the time, these things are potentially avoidable. We definitely have hormonal shifts. And a new mom is supposed to be more sensitive. We're supposed to cry more easily. We're supposed to be more delicate. And some of those hormones are given to us so that we will protect our babies, so that we just naturally will protect ourselves, we'll keep ourselves away. You know, imagine if a woman had a baby and strapped the baby on her shoulder and went out to army, right, to the army, to do her shift on, you know, protecting, guarding the castle, or, you know, fighting the enemy or something like that. That doesn't make sense. It's always been known that this is a very delicate time period. And there's good reasons, even in mammals, right? Cows and dogs. The mom is very protective of her babies. They're sensitive. They're heightened awareness. They keep away from danger, and they rest. They rest. If you watch a puppy, you know, a mother who just had puppies, or a mother cat who just had kittens, they're not doing a lot. Not that they do a lot on a general basis, but they're not, even in a natural environment, they're eating, they're sleeping, they're nursing, they're resting, they are eating more than usual. They are naturally taking care of themselves. They're naturally doing self-care. So we're not living in villages, right? We're not living in societies. Most of us are not in a society which honors this lying in, this resting in period. And sometimes it's not always necessary, but so many cultures, even sometimes I think the more Haredi societies that have more of that time period, maybe the 6-week time period, 2 weeks where the mom for sure is not leaving the house, going to the Beit Knesset before you even leave the house. You generally, from my experience, you do have a more of an understanding of rest, but you don't always know why. As a young mom, especially after the first baby, you might be bored. You might not want to get back into the swing of things. You don't always understand why. And sometimes for good reason. Sometimes you really are bored and you really do have a bit of energy, right? We spoke about this a little bit after Chava Ben Zion. We were talking about the postpartum time period, right? Giving yourself that time to rest and gauging how you feel on that. But this is Ariella's story. I feel like it's showing us in our society why we need, let's say, a good childbirth class. And not just, hopefully any childbirth class is a good childbirth class, but Ariella had a doula. She had family support, but she didn't. Hopefully in a good childbirth class, you will learn about the postpartum time period, because the first postpartum woman you may ever meet might be yourself, right? You're not growing up in the village. You, in a society where you have cousins and aunts and sisters and neighbors, and you're involved in the birth process and you're involved in the postpartum time period, by the time it is your turn, you know the drill. You know that everyone's going to make you soup. You know that you're just going to rest. You know that you're going to be leaking and bleeding and, dealing with a new baby. You also have people around you who have breastfed babies before, especially before formula, right? But in today's society, we need to learn these things. This ancient wisdom is gone. So Ariella didn't have anybody explaining to her, this is what's going to happen postpartum. This is how you have to take care of yourself. This is how you're going to deal with all the visitors, that you're going to let them do the cooking and the hosting. You are in bed. It can feel really stupid to be just sitting in bed when you're perfectly capable and someone else is in your kitchen touching your things. It's very hard sometimes, right? Very rarely do we have this situation where young women are moving in with their mom for a while. Again, more in Haredi societies. There's also like a mother-baby recovery centers, which I love. I've definitely saved up. I remember once we had a lot of our family members taking vacation, and my husband said, these family members have been on vacation, and these ones, should we go on vacation? I was 7 months pregnant. I said, no, I don't want a vacation now. I want a vacation postpartum. Save that money and send me to the mother-baby center. It was the best thing I ever did because I had little kids at home. And basically, with my first baby, I was bored. I felt a little bit confined, a little bit too much pinook, everyone taking care of me, but it still was a very good time. I remember sometimes just having that quiet time with my baby, knowing that I didn't have to worry about meals or anything. If I would have understood it the way I understand it now, it would have been a nicer time. But I didn't have the full appreciation of it then, right? So I was bored, right? Now I would have prepared things to do. And then with subsequent babies that I had quite close together, I began going to these recovery centers for as long as I could. And then I had a big gap, and I had 2 little babies after a 10-year break, and I didn't want to go away. I wanted to be home. I had big kids to help me, but I knew that I needed to rest. So for the most part, I did share some stories. For the most part, my recovery was way better, and I was able to rest. And it's a big bracha. It is a very big bracha. Ariella, in her story, shared, it was almost like all the cards were stacked against her because she had so many different situations, both with the birth itself and the postpartum period, and nobody telling her how things were going to be. Just so many things were stacked against her that there's almost no way that with all the emotions and all the hormonal shifts and everything that happens after you've had a baby and just staying home with that little baby all the time, nobody told her to go out to put together maybe some sort of mommy's group to just speak to other mothers, go to the playground. She eventually figured a lot of these things out, but at what cost? It was really hard, really hard. My heart just opens up. It was a really hard time period for her. And she was, again, so amazing to share that with us, right? So what can we do to be our own best friend, to get some information? I was reading a book called The Fourth Trimester. I will put a link to it. I actually have it right here. I borrowed it from a friend. Here we go. Okay. The Fourth Trimester by Kimberly Ann Johnson. I'll put a link in the show notes. I'm not saying that I recommend this book. There's some stuff in here that I'm not sure if you want to read. You can either filter it, you can skip over it on your own. But I also appreciate that she speaks openly, and it's okay. You don't have to agree with everybody's thoughts on every single topic. But there's so much good information here, and just validating that this is normal. This is a really good thing. You should rest more than you think you should. How do you help yourself? And honestly, as you can see, I'm not entirely finished with the book. I'm only about three quarters of the way through. But even if it's not this particular book, getting a different book, just listening to a YouTube, a little podcast. I see them all the time. Young moms do that. They say, this is what happened postpartum. This is what I could have done differently. This is how you can help yourself. There's so much information today. So instead of thinking about this baby blues, this postpartum time period, as like a negative way, honoring yourself, understanding that your body is made to do this. You're also mourning the loss of the baby. I mean, you and your baby were one. Their heartbeat was inside of you, and now that baby is separate from yourself, right? They're wearing their own clothing. It's a separation. It is a loss. Your body's mourning. Your body's protecting. Your senses are heightened. It is a beautiful time, actually. It's an amazing time, and it's also just, you get that high of like, you're amazing, the child. There's just nothing like that, right? So if we can sort of switch our views and do the things that we can do to help ourselves, then Bezrat Hashem, the world will be a better place, and we can help bring the Geula, Bezrat Hashem. So I want you to have a great day, and remember that Hashem loves you. Remember that I love you. And if you like this show or any of the other Geula Mamas shows, which you can listen to here on YouTube or on podcast if you're listening on podcast and audio, and join our Facebook group so we can have these discussions in the private group. If you like any of it, please think about it. Do you have a friend that could benefit from this? Do you know anybody who is ever had a baby, having a baby, right? Anything in that, you can help them with this amazing information. So please share it with them. Be a good friend and have a great day. Goodbye.